This video is all about founder-based names. Founder-based names involve using the designer's own name or family heritage. For example, Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, Amiri. Ralph Lauren is the owner and creative director, as well as Calvin Klein, and Mike Amiri named Amiri after his own family. These names create a strong emotional link between customer and brand. People like to buy from people. I personally am a fan of the brand Amiri, not just because of the clothes, but because I'm invested in the story of the brand. And the main character in that story is Mike Amiri. When the name of the brand is your last name, that creates immediate founder accountability. If things go wrong with the brand, people assume it's related to the founder. If things go right with the brand, the founder gets a lot of credit. As long as things are going right, the personal reputation of the founder will build trust. There's nothing more authentic than using your name. It conveys genuine craft and personal investment. Chances are, if your brand is your name, people assume you take your craft very seriously. Storytelling becomes easy because founders aren't pretending to be anything they're not. As long as they're true to themselves, they can just tell their story, their struggles, their triumphs, and they don't need to make anything up. When people get emotionally invested and the founder starts telling authentic stories, it becomes easier for them to build influencer relationships. An influencer wants to work with people as well. They don't want to just work with corporate brands. It's going to seem way more interesting to an influencer if they're working with a brand that has a cool founder, the face of the brand, rather than working with some bigger corporation that appeals to a more general audience. And when the founder is the face of the brand, it ensures the brand story and mission are uniformly communicated, because the founder becomes the go-to figure for all media coverage and brand representation. There are a few different approaches or types of these founder-based names. Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, and Michael Kors are all examples of a direct full name, brand name. It's the first and the last name. This works best when it's memorable, easy to pronounce, has a pleasant sound, and is distinctive without being too complex. Another approach is to use a modified version of a personal name, like using initials, DVF for Diane von Furstenberg, or shortened versions of names like Kate Spade instead of Catherine Spade. Another example is a combined family name like DNC or Dolce & Gabbana, which are the two names of the primary families involved with the founding of the company. Which leads me to family heritage names, which use the family surnames like Fendi, Gucci, or Prada. They're typically historical family businesses based around names with cultural significance. When the name and face of the brand are based on the founder, several natural PR opportunities pop up. Founders play a crucial role in generating natural public relations opportunities through their everyday personal interactions with media and the public. They are the media face. Founders often serve as prominent figures in interviews and press releases. They get a ton of free publicity because their personal stories and achievements attract interest, leading to cost-free media coverage, especially on social media. A founder with a big social media presence gets a ton of free press. When founders attend industry events, that boosts the brand visibility. Appearances at such events foster ties within the industry, enhancing network prospects. The founder's backstory can draw journalists and influencers, amplifying brand exposure. If you have a compelling narrative or an interesting story, people are going to be drawn to that. Mike Amiri, one of my favorite designers, named his brand after his last name, Amiri, and he is the face of the brand. He's been nominated for multiple prestigious awards, like the CFDA Menswear Designer of the Year, which enhances his personal brand and, by extension, his fashion label. His insights and experiences shared through various platforms position him as a thought leader, attracting a following that extends beyond fashion consumers to aspiring designers and industry professionals. He originally worked in the music industry and was one of the pioneers of K-pop, but then pivoted to a fashion designer, which is a great story and attracts media attention. However, despite all of the amazing benefits, there are several drawbacks and risks, including personal reputation risks. Brands that are named after their founder tie the reputation to the founder's behavior. A founder's positive actions and public image can enhance brand perception, but on the flip side, any negative behavior or controversy involving the founder can tarnish the image, leading to consumer distrust and financial losses. So there's risk to the brand based on what the founder does. But then on the other hand, what happens to the brand affects the perception of the founder as well, and their personal life becomes public interest. With media and consumers closely monitoring their actions, maintaining personal privacy becomes difficult as the public associates the founder's personal life with the values and image. Any scandals involving a founder can severely damage a brand's reputation and sales immediately and over the long term. It becomes hard for people to distinguish between the individual and the brand, which complicates crisis management. There's immediate backlash, which has swift negative impacts on sales and brand equity. Negative perceptions of the brand and the founder can persist long after the incident. The founder and the brand become intertwined and are often seen as inseparable. To overcome long-term reputational damage, there needs to be strategic planning. For bigger brands, this involves hiring a crisis management team to put out the fire. Founder-based names might have complications in company sale negotiations. I'm talking about selling the company to venture capital or a bigger conglomerate. At one point, most founders decide to exit their company. Maybe they stay majority shareholders, but typically real wealth is achieved when a founder exits or sells the company. A brand heavily tied to its founder may be perceived as reliant on their personal influence, which might push buyers away if they're concerned about the brand's sustainability post-sale. For example, if Mike Amiri decides to sell the company and retire, his core customers might walk away because they're not interested in the brand without him. Something similar happened with Off-White after Virgil passed away. It seems that people in general are not as interested with Off-White anymore because it's not being run by Virgil. His personal brand was so heavily tied to Off-White that his absence makes it so the majority of the audience doesn't even see it as Off-White anymore. Determining the brand's worth becomes complex when the founder's personal reputation significantly influences its value. I'm sure now it would be way harder to sell Off-White than when Virgil was alive. There are quite a few negotiation dynamics at play. Buyers, like a big firm, require non-compete clauses, adding more layers to the negotiation process. But we need you to still be involved. We still need you to be the face. We still need you to be involved in the design process, because otherwise the company is not going to make as much money, and therefore there's no real point in us paying you $500 million. There are also potential legal issues with having a founder-based name. Conflicts may occur over name ownership and usage rights. These conflicts might get pretty intense if the founder separates from the company, leading to drawn-out legal disputes and negotiations over name usage. Another thing to think about is what happens when the founder wants to pass on the leadership. Let's say Mike Amiri wants to pass the Amiri torch to a non-Amiri person, or let's say he wants to pass the torch to one of his sons. Depending on which decision he makes and where the company goes is going to create some internal instability. Changes may affect trust among investors and customers. Maybe Mike Amiri has a specific idea of who he wants to pass the baton to, but the stakeholders and investors might not agree. Typically, any succession is going to require strategic planning. Another specific real-world example is the brand Rhude. Luigi Villaseñor is the face of the brand. He's the founder, and his personal brand is closely tied to the fashion brand. The name of the brand Rhude is derived from his name. The three letters RHU are used in all of his companies. His designs are narrative-driven, reflecting his own personal experiences and cultural background. He actively engages in public relations and media. He positions himself as the embodiment of Rhude's ethos, strengthening the brand's identity and fostering a personal connection with the audience. The RHU prefix is derived from his first name. He uses this in various sub-brands and collaborations, which creates a cohesive brand architecture. He did a collab with Zara, where he launched the RHU collection, standing for Redesigning Human Uniform. He also did a collaboration with McLaren, which merges automotive culture, or car culture, with fashion. which just goes to show how versatile the RHU branding is. In June of 2023, Rhuigi faced a lawsuit filed by a minority stakeholder and co-founder of the company, George Robertson. The lawsuit alleges that Rhuigi misappropriated company funds to support a lavish lifestyle. Basically, he was taking company money and then spending that on private jets and luxury cars and high-end real estate, then writing it off as a marketing expenditure for the brand. I have my own thoughts about this. I'm not going to go super into that in this video. It seems like everything's going to be fine with Rhuigi and the brand. I do agree that in order for him to convince people to buy his luxury clothing, he needs to exude a luxury lifestyle, especially on social media. But that's a conversation for another time. When scandals like this happen, it immediately damages the reputation of the brand, reduces customer trust and investor confidence, which can be scary for the brand, especially if a sharp decline in revenue puts them into a sketchy financial situation. And then it might also affect the everyday operations of the brand. If there are legal issues or if something serious is happening to the founder, the people that work for that founder are going to be like, what are we doing right now? Should we be fixing this? Should we be looking for other jobs? Should we be jumping ship? Should we be backing up the founder and supporting him? It gets dicey. So here are some key considerations and my personal suggestions before using your name for your fashion or clothing brand. Ask yourself these questions. What's your future vision? Do you plan to sell the business one day? Do you plan on being in the business forever or for as long as possible? How big do you want to grow? Is your brand going to be just like a little local brand and that's cool with you? Do you want to really take it all the way to the finish line? If you are going to take it all the way to the finish line, what is your exit strategy? Are you going to sell it to a big company? Or are you going to try and stay a majority shareholder? Do you have international expansion plans? It might be hard for certain cultures to pronounce your name, which might directly impact sales in that region. And then the next few questions are related to personal readiness. Are you comfortable being the brand face? If no, do not even consider this. You will burn yourself out. You will crumble under the public scrutiny. Are you ready for the public scrutiny? If no, don't even consider this. Are you down for the long term, for the long game play? If no, don't consider this. Does your family support it? Especially if you're going to be using your last name. Does your family want their last name being related to your brand? And if your family is super supportive, that's amazing. But you must be ready to go all in. If you are not ready to go all in, then this will end up being an embarrassing disaster where the brand will just not take off, won't even get off the ground, and it's tied to your name, and then you just feel like a failure. So don't do that unless you can answer all of these questions. If you answer all of these questions and you still feel it in your soul that you really want your brand to be your name, then I say go for it. So that's it for founder-based names. In the next video, we're going to go over description-based names or descriptive names, and I'll provide a ton of tips for small brands. If you found this video valuable or learned something new, please like and subscribe. That helps me out so much. I'll see you in the next one.